Hi, welcome to Anaprime Recap. You are raised by a ghost, a mummy and a skeleton who teach you how to survive in a demon-ridden world. In today's video we will recap the story of the anime, Saihate no Paladin, episodes 1, 2 and 3. In a remote place on Earth, 3 undead raise a human child. Gus, the ghost, explains to Will how the universe was built by the creator god and teaches the boy to use magic to his advantage. This peculiar family lives in a temple, where the statues of various gods reside. Among them is Gracefeel, the goddess of light, who governs the cycle of death and rebirth. She is the daughter of the god of lightning, Volt, and the Earth Mother, Mater. Mary the Mummy is one of the followers of Mater, the goddess of child-rearing and the bounties of the earth. Of the 6 main gods, she is the one most revered by people living in rural areas. Mary prays to Mother Earth every day to ask for her blessings. Blood, the 3rd undead, is a walking red-headed skeleton who, despite his grotesque appearance, cares for Will as if the boy were his son. During dinner, the young man thanks him for the food, and Blood says that once Will is a little older, he will teach him how to hunt. Curious to know how the food is prepared, the boy asks Mary when the bread he was eating was baked. However, the woman prefers not to say and claims that this information is a secret. This is just one of several secrets that the trio keeps hidden from Will. Since he was born, the boy had never had contact with anyone but them. The boy also did not know why he lived isolated in that temple, and even less why his family was composed of a ghost, a mummy and a skeleton. Although there is a lot he would like to know, the young man does not feel comfortable asking because he himself is hiding a secret. Will has memories of his former life. His memories are vague and hazy, but he remembers well the day he met those 3. The boy was still a baby when he was rescued by Blood. The moment he saw him, he became desperate, because he believed he would be killed by that monster. Although he could not walk or talk, Will was fully aware of what was happening and was surprised to find that he was being cared for by those creatures. 6 months have passed since the day he arrived at the temple, and the boy has begun to get used to his new reality. Every morning Mary went to his room to feed him, and one day she decided to take the boy for a walk outside for the first time. At this time, Will could feel the refreshing breeze and was confronted with a breathtaking view. Deeply moved, the boy begins to cry. Until then, he believed he had fallen into hell, after living such a vague and hopeless life. However, upon seeing that place, Will realizes that he was wrong. In fact, he had been given a new life and a new opportunity to make it worthwhile. When the young man is old enough to wield a sword, Blood begins to train him, and Gus also begins to teach the boy to use the power of words to control magic. Will soon proves to be very skilled, but he must learn to control his precision in order not to become a hostage to his own power. So the ghost decides to teach him to use simple magic, and will only advance when Will learns to apply it with skill and precision. That night, Mary reveals to the boy that the 3 of them were once human. However, at the moment of their death, they made a pact with the god of immortality. For this reason, they are considered traitors to the virtuous gods. The next day, during the hunt, Blood teaches him how to kill birds in a way that does not make them suffer. The skeleton reveals that, like Will, he does not like to take lives, either of animals or humans. However, that was the sustenance necessary to keep the boy alive. In a life or death situation, Blood puts his feelings aside and kills almost unconsciously. To him, this means being a warrior, because in battle, this attitude will determine whether the fighter will die or live. When Will turns 8 years old, the skeleton challenges him to a duel. During the fight, the boy could use the magic he was learning from Gus. The battle begins and the young man uses acceleration magic to dodge Blood's attacks. He then manages to make him slip into a pool of oil and tries to catch him with a giant spider web, but the red-haired skeleton manages to block the attack. Quickly, Blood approaches the boy and manages to disarm him. This is the end of the battle. Although Will asked easily, Blood claims to be proud of him, as the boy demonstrated skill in using magic. That night, the skeleton has an important conversation with the boy. He knows that Will has already realized that he is different from the rest of his family, but he says that he cannot tell him why yet. However, he promises that when Will is big enough to understand certain things, he will explain everything to him. A few days go by and Will decides to go and pick some fruit for breakfast. At this moment, Mary appears and says that it is time to say his prayers. A few times a day she isolates herself in the dome of the temple to pray, and Will has been instructed never to enter that room when the woman is there. The boy never thought of violating this order, but that changed when he saw Mary coming out of the dome with the bread he eats every morning. On this day, his curiosity spoke louder and Will decides to go in there while Mary says her prayers. When he opens the door, he is faced with a strong flame and the woman is right in the center of it. Startled, the boy runs to save Mary, but ends up badly burning his arms. Later, while the boy is being treated, the woman blames herself for what happened. She says that if she had told Will the truth, it would not have happened. After a few months, the boy's arms would heal, but he would carry scars for the rest of his life. Blood lectures Will for disobeying an order, but also praises him for risking himself to save Mary. According to the skeleton, those wounds are medals of his courage. Gus tells that the bread the boy eats every morning is a gift from Mater. However, as Mary betrayed the Mother Earth by entering into a pact with Stagnate, the god of death, upon coming into contact with the divine presence of the goddess, her body goes up in flames. The pain is so great that she feels like crying, but the woman believes she must bear it in retribution for her betrayal. Upon hearing this, Will asks that, from that day forward, Mary let him pray together with her. In this way, he could understand what the mummy sees and feels. 5 years have passed and Will has completed a ritual that few adults are capable of performing. For 5 days, the young man did nothing but pray continuously. In compensation, that evening Mary would serve only his favorite foods at dinner. As time goes on, Gus's classes and Blood's training get harder and harder. That day, the skeleton brings the body of a low-level demon he found in the ruins to duel Will. With just one blow, the boy manages to exterminate him, so Blood decides to take him, for the first time, in the ruined city that lies just below the hill where the temple they lived in was located. Together they enter an underground passage where humans and dwarves used to live. But now that place is just a dangerous zone full of bizarre undead. For this reason, the trio never allowed Will to go there. Suddenly, Blood stops walking and asks the boy to check his belongings. He carries a sword, a shield, bread, dried meat, and a bottle of water. Then the skeleton says that Will need to find a way out of that place and says that he will be waiting for him outside. The lights go out and when the boy turns on his shield, he realizes that Blood had already left. Now his life really was in danger and Will would have to fight his way out of that dark place alive. Suddenly, 2 demons approach him, and the young man has to fight them off. When he stops to rest and replenish his energy, he remembers that in that world, people become adults at the age of 15, so he would soon have to fend for himself. So he decides to do his best on that mission. While looking for the exit, the boy comes across an undead Vrascus demon. Just like him, that demon can use magic, being the strongest opponent Will has ever faced. Still, the young man decides to fight that monster and, after dodging a few attacks and neutralizing its magic, manages to stab its head. Will's sword is broken on impact, but his opponent is destroyed. Since he has no other sword, the boy decides to take the demon's spear and discovers that it is actually a magic weapon that was made by dwarves. Sometime later, when he was near the exit, he is surprised by the sudden arrival of Gus. The ghost says a single word and evokes a golem to attack the boy. However, Will uses his spear to destroy the creature's vital point and manages to eliminate it. Then Gus launches a stone blast in his direction. At this point, while trying to dodge the attacks, Will realizes that the ghost has a real intention to kill him. Despite not knowing why he has become a target, the young man decides that he needs to eliminate his mentor in order to defend himself. However, just as he was about to stab him, the boy changes his mind and says that the ghost must have a good reason for taking his life, otherwise he wouldn't do it. Then Will accepts his death and assures him that he is not afraid. But, contrary to all his expectations, Gus begins to laugh and states that it was just a lesson. Upon hearing this, the boy is frightened. Not because he almost died, but because the ghost is trying to convince him that it was all an act. Together, the two emerge from that dark cave and Will decides not to tell Mary and Blood anything about the incident. In the following days, while training with his new weapon, the boy discovers that the tip of his spear could emit a magical light and its handle could expand or shorten at will. Even after that trauma, the boy returned to the underground city other times to receive training from Blood. On the next winter solstice, Will turn 15. When he does, he will go through the coming-of-age ritual, and Blood will challenge him to a duel of swords. Surprisingly, once again, Gus asks the boy to purposely lose the fight. Will asks the reason for that request, but the ghost states that he cannot say. The young man says that if Gus would just explain why, he wouldn't mind losing the duel, but since the ghost doesn't trust him enough to tell the truth, Will ignore his request. While the young man was pensive in the temple of the gods, Mary and Blood appear. The woman reminds him that in his coming-of-age ritual, Will need to swear an oath to one of the gods and decide which will be his guardian deity. By taking an oath to a god, he would gain his divine protection, and the stronger the vow, the greater the chances of its being accepted. A short time later, the big day arrives for Will's battle against Blood. This would be the last duel between the two, for the boy would leave the temple in the spring. While warming up for the fight, Mary appears and helps him put on his armor. Then they gather on the hill and go over the rules. The only prohibitions are the use of magic and attempted quick kills. Otherwise, everything is allowed. The loser is the one who admits defeat or becomes unable to fight. Should any incident happen and someone gets hurt, Mary will heal him with her blessing. The fight begins and Will starts at a disadvantage. He tries to defend himself against the skeleton's attacks, for if he were to take a single blow he might become unable to continue. The boy knows that it is almost impossible to dodge Blood's attack, so he decides to attack him and defend himself with his shield, in an attempt to mitigate possible damage. Now, at close range, it will be easier to defeat him. However, what the young man didn't expect was that the skeleton would use his ribs to hold the sword. Unarmed, Will is defenseless and ends up losing the fight. Blood says that, although the boy was not able to beat him, it is remarkable that he has evolved a lot. The skeleton knows that Will soon become stronger than he is because, as an undead, his abilities cannot evolve. No matter how much he trains, his power in battle will always be the same. During the conversation, Will refers to Blood and Mary as his parents and the skeleton hands him his most powerful sword, the Overeater. That demonic weapon is capable of cutting anything. When a living being is cut by that blade, the bearer increases its life force. This means that in a duel, Will could just strike with that sword without worrying about being hit, because as soon as he cut his opponent, his wounds would heal. However, this is not a weapon that should be used at any time. The more you wield it, the more dependent you become on it. Now that Will would become an adult, Blood decides it is time to tell the boy the whole truth. About 200 years ago, the Supreme King of the Eternals led a great revolt. An army of countless demons invaded the continent and offered a great deal of flesh and blood in a series of rituals to the God of Gods. In response to this, the followers of the God of Tyranny, Illtreat, and the followers of the God of the Undead, Stagnate, have become active throughout the world. The virtuous gods used all their might in a series of battles intense enough to change the layout of the continents and alter the map. However, the Supreme King's abilities were completely insane. The demented man turned any blood he spilled into soldiers and any flesh cut from his body into war commanders. In other words, he created demons out of his own flesh and blood in unlimited ways. That city, which was now in ruins, became the home of the High King, where he produced his demons en masse. Everyone believed that it was impossible to defeat him, but Gus suggested that that was the perfect time to face the Supreme King. However, as they prepared to attack him, the God of the Gods assumed his true form, transforming into a grotesque warrior. With the help of Gus and Mary, Blood managed to wound him, but it was not strong enough to kill him. So Mary and Gus cast a seal on the High King. The magic worked and they managed to seal him in the depths of that land. At this time, Stagnate descended from the heavens and offered the trio a deal. Since they were exceptionally talented, the god asked them to become undead and fight at his side. In exchange, Stagnate would rid the city of the remaining demons and the three of them could take care of the seal using their immortal bodies. This was a bad deal, but they had no choice. After accepting the offer, Blood became a skeleton, Mary became a mummy, and Gus became a ghost. Then the undead god cleansed the entire city and his overwhelming power turned the low-level demons into living dead. Because of the pact they made, the three of them have been stuck in that place ever since and had no idea what the world outside was like. They were considering the possibility that humanity had become extinct when one day Will appeared. The demons took the boy to that city and intended to use him as a sacrifice to break the seal of the High King, but Blood managed to defeat them and took the child to the temple. After discussing it with Gus, he and Mary decide to raise the boy. The fact that the demons managed to bring him to that town may be an indication that there is a place nearby inhabited by humans. After they reveal the whole truth, Mary and Blood say goodbye to Will, and the boy is at a loss to understand the reason for this, since he hasn't even performed the coming-of-age ritual yet. Just then, the clouds darken and Stagnate appears to take possession of their souls. However, Gus appears out of nowhere. The ghost asks Will to take his parents and leave the place. So, what did you think of this anime? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like it and subscribe for more anime recaps. See you next time.